Ready, set, go global with your small business. Powered by DHL Express. Hello and good morning, good afternoon or good evening to you wherever you are, and welcome to our new podcast series, Ready, Set, Go Global with Your Small Business, specifically created for SMEs and e-commerce businesses with global ambitions. In each episode, we'll tackle real challenges from setting up your online store to scaling internationally with insights from industry experts, successful DHL customers and partners. Whether you're just starting out or planning on your next big step, the series is packed with actionable tips to help you grow and thrive in the global market. Powered by DHL Express, we're here to guide you at every stage of your journey. I'm Louie and I'm your host, and I'm going to be guiding you through this podcast and the next few episodes. Our focus is on e-commerce, a huge topic that is central to international sales expansions for businesses of, well, pretty much any size. But with our guest, who I'll introduce you to in just a second, we want to uncover some of the insight and knowledge that can help SMEs understand the ins and outs of e-commerce. So, back to our guests, and I'm delighted to introduce Aurélien Leftick, who is Head of Shipping and Product Partnerships for WooCommerce, and also Ben McClean, who is Head of E-commerce, Commercial Programs and Sustainability Lead at DHL Express UAE. So first, Aurélien, it's great to have you with us. If you could just describe your role and relationship to e-commerce in a nutshell.
Thanks, Louie. I work at WooCommerce, one of the leading e-commerce platforms. We have over 3.6 million stores using WooCommerce worldwide. And that means there's a wide range of different shipping needs. And my role is to ensure that we have the proper solutions for those merchants. And that can be, and often is, through our partners, that it can be shipping solutions or carriers like DHL.
Great. Thanks, Aurélien. And same for you, Ben?
Yeah, thanks, Louie. Appreciate having me on. So, my name's Ben. I head e-commerce, as you're aware. And primarily my role is to support our sales force, equip them with knowledge, insights, work with the local community, and enable SMEs to really maximize their global opportunities. So, excited to be on. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. The role of e-commerce in global expansion. E-commerce is, of course, nothing new. The term itself was even coined as far back as 1984. But with the advent of the internet, globalization in the early and mid-2000s, and most recently the pandemic, e-commerce has really exploded as a way for businesses to happen both nationally and across borders faster and more seamlessly than ever before. So first to you, Aurélien, what does that mean for small businesses specifically?
Well, two things come to mind for me. One is that e-commerce is now democratized to everybody in the past 10 years. It is easier than ever for anybody to create an online store, regardless of where they are in the world, and to have some technologies and capabilities and being powered to do the store the same way as the large players are doing it in the space. So e-commerce is now, any entrepreneur or business that wants to launch an e-commerce store can do so. The interfaces, everything is a lot simpler and easier for them to do so. So it's a lot more accessible. The other big trend or piece, I think, to that is also since the pandemic, COVID kind of changed everything. We're seeing merchants and consumers, or consumers primarily, are much more knowledgeable and comfortable with buying things online. And not only domestically, but also internationally. So during COVID, we saw also the rise of people adopting and buying from their local and national merchants, but also pushed to do cross-border exchanges. So I think that's been a new opportunity that we didn't have maybe pre-COVID, where consumers were a lot shyer to buy things across border.
Great, thanks, Aurélien. And Ben, are we still in that post-pandemic honeymoon period? What does the immediate future look like for e-commerce and SMEs operating in that area?
Yeah, sure. I would love to say we'd see the same accelerated growth rates as COVID. I think that'd be great for all of us. But the reality is it's still growing. I mean, if you look at the cross-border opportunity, the question is, why would you not want to set up an online business and obviously maximize that opportunity? If you think about it this way, there's around 8 billion people on this planet. There was around 25% of those had a digital transaction. And when you see cross-border growing at twice the rate of domestic, there's still a very positive outlook. And when you consider now that we're more connected than ever, and you think about, younger generation who, always scroll on their phones, they're making purchases from their mobiles as well. So we expect that number to keep rising. So yeah, whilst it's not at the levels we've seen, it's still growing and it's still very, very positive.
Post-COVID, e-commerce continues to grow, and we're seeing like borderless marketplaces with merchants and consumers buying and exchanging from all around the world. And really, right now, there's no excuse for anybody not to start an online business.
What we're seeing, it's the exact same what we're seeing, Aurélien. If you look globally now, especially in mature countries, the end consumers are already making those digital purchases cross-border. They're looking for products that are not available in their local market. They may be looking for good deals. The reality is they're already invested into purchasing cross-border. And the great thing about that for a merchant as well, we typically see higher ticket basket values with a lot lower return ratios. So from a merchant point of view, not only is a lot more opportunity to grow, but also it can be a lot more profitable if you get that part right.
Yeah, and I think like you also look at, how people are coming across these products and discovering these products. It's also a lot of it is through social media, and social media is borderless. You don't necessarily, you can follow somebody on Instagram that is not in your country, and if they're pushing and promoting a product, the consumer wants it and will buy it regardless of it. So we're kind of seeing that explosion also on the social media being borderless, that then drives e-commerce to be borderless.
No, I think there's a lot of good examples of that. I mean, if you look at sort of social commerce now, where we're heading, back to current and future generations, it's really the personality of that brand. And there's so many examples of small companies blowing up in social and growing. So it's a great place to start when you're building your business, when you're thinking about your purpose and connecting with your audience, using social channels to your benefit, and also driving to your .com as well.
So really, it's a scenario that small businesses should ignore cross-border e-commerce at their peril. And while that certainly is the case, it might not always be as easy as it sounds, especially if you're a solo business owner or just starting your journey. So Ben, what are some of the challenges that SMEs need to be aware of?
Yeah, so this can obviously differ from different companies and depend on where what stage of your journey you're on. But the typical types of conversations we're having to help merchants is typically navigating customs, because it's a big topic. So, for me, it's making sure you do your research, you understand the markets you're servicing, you're familiar with taxation and duties and VAT, that you're protected there, and have really good data. So what we're seeing now is a lot of companies, when they grow, they don't necessarily understand what harmonized codes are, proper descriptions of those products. So it's about getting those things correct, because if you're a small business, you become a large business, it's a big hurdle to tackle if you don't get those things right. Also, it can have a big negative impact on the customer experience, because only if they don't get their order on time, or we're charging the duty or tax rates as a result of bad data, you're going to have a very unhappy customer. So navigating customs, but that's an area we obviously excel. There's a lot of experience. So, that is something we can certainly help customers with. And there's a lot of really good information out there. The other is cross-border logistics. A lot of small companies who may be operating purely offline today, or maybe in their local domestic market, they don't necessarily know how to do cross-border. But I think now, as Aurélien has sort of spoke about, especially pre-COVID, a lot more companies have expanded. So it's become a lot easier, and companies like DHL can really help the customer as they make those expansions. So typically a salesperson, our business is providing those insights, looking at analytics, looking at opportunities for growth in new markets, and obviously supporting them on that journey. So I think that the message I want to really portray here, whilst there is complications, there's a lot of experience and knowledge and know-how. So it's very easy for you as a merchant to sort of plug into our network, not just in terms of reach, but also our knowledge and insights. So we can help you navigate that journey and help you expand it and maximize that opportunity.
So essentially, it's just like plugging into an existing network.
Yeah, exactly. All the way from setting up the account, it's obviously simple. We have that knowledge and know-how and that experience to be able to support the merchant to grow. So, from a customer point of view, we make it simple, and obviously we handhold throughout that process.
And what about the challenges outside of logistics, Aurélien? What should small businesses looking to grow be aware of?
Well, the first challenge of international commerce is the challenge of commerce. So like sourcing a product, finding interested customers, all those things that you need to do to start a successful online business can be challenging. So, my first advice would be to start selling into your local market, if that makes sense, as your first step. That way you have a strong foundation. So as you grow your business and your ambition, there's a vast portfolio of proven solutions to overcome all the challenges of expanding internationally for each growth stages. Some that come to mind is, let's say, language and localization. Like you might want to be able to present to your customer a website in their local language, and you might not know that language. These days, there's great services and technology that will translate your website for you. Currency and payments, you want to be able to accept payment in the currency that your shoppers prefer to pay in. And the payment providers out there now offer multi-currency features and allow you to display the prices and the currency of the shopper in different markets. Taxes, Ben referred to that as something to be aware of, and it can be quite daunting at the beginning. And luckily, there are solutions out there that manage tax that are designed for that. One that come to mind for me is Avalara, that will automatically calculate tax and compliance in like 190 countries, I think, today. And then obviously there is the aspect of logistics, and you can start small at the beginning, working with partners like DHL, where you're going to ship maybe 1 or 2 shipments every month from your home, or from your office, or like you would do a domestic shipment. And as you expand, you might want to look into working with third-party logistic companies and having fulfillment in warehouses in these other countries. So you can really get complex over time. The thing right now, I think, is you don't need to have the answers to everything today. You just need to start small, evolve quickly. And, that's the great advantage of e-commerce, is it's what you're doing today can very quickly be different tomorrow.
Yeah, I think one of the great points, it definitely talks to, acquiring the customer and completing that transaction. But after that point, obviously your logistics partner is delivering your promise. So they are the face that the customer sees on the doorstep. So if you think about the cost of acquisition now to attract those customers, but you've obviously then got to consider, if you want to build a profitable business and have lifetime value, then the reality is you need to have a good delivery experience to make sure they repeat buy. So it's really, really important. And if you also think about the fact that you need that company to be able to manage that promise. So one of the things that we have at DHL, a tool is called on-demand delivery, and that enables our customer to select the delivery experience of when and where and how they want that order delivered. The other thing to also mention as well is, if you think it's a global business, are you going to be able to have a 24-hour customer service team that's going to be able to deal with the customer's needs? So the fact that your partners should have local logistics call centers in those countries to manage any concerns. So effectively reducing costs, improving the overall customer experience, and obviously allowing you to grow your customer base.
So just because your customers might not be in the same country as you or might not speak the same language as you doesn't make them any less important?
Absolutely. And each customer in a different country may have different expectations on how they want something delivered, and you need to meet those expectations, as Ben pointed out. And that also can start not only at the order is made, but before the order is made at checkout, to win the checkout, win that buy. Shipping plays also a big role. If you can make them comfortable with the shipping options that you're presenting to them at checkout and the carriers that that will be delivering the package, it can increase the confidence of the shopper and make them want to choose to buy or not. So I think shipping is it's important to not only work with partners to be able to deliver on that promise, but also to be able to capture the promise at checkout.
So one thing I thought that would be worth touching on today was some e-commerce trends. And usually when anyone talks about trends, one word or term that is never too far away is AI, artificial intelligence. So maybe let's start there. I mean, we hear a lot about AI in many ways in the news or in our industries, but just how does that fit for SMEs and e-commerce, Ben?
Yeah, sure. I think it's all around us. I think great examples of AI is mass personalization. So if you think about sort of Amazon, how they personalize products based on your previous selection, your wants and need, And another really good example is someone like Netflix, which is a little bit scary because they tend to know what I want better than I do. So using really customer data to provide things that I'm looking for.
Well, AI is and is already transforming and will continue to transform all aspects of e-commerce. I think many of you folks might find it already transforming everything you're doing even today. I mean, there's not a day that I'm not actively using AI, and who knows how often I'm using it passively through other solutions, or, as Ben was referring, when we're shopping on Amazon and is probably using AI to personalize their offerings. So AI is here. It's going to stay, and I think it's going to transform many different things for us, from how logistics are done, how we serve our customers, and how we operate.
Great point. And you're starting to see that now with augmented reality. Whether you're shopping offline or online now, consumers are expecting that as part of their digital shopping experience. I mean, you see that already now with the metaverse. You can see that in terms of, try before you buy. Especially in apparel and sort of beauty. So, these technologies are already there, and I think they're just becoming a lot more mainstream. I think by, the next year or two, they will no longer be considered a trend, but more of a need.
I think Ben brings a good point about how AI is going to transform a bit the shopping experience through these different new environments that shoppers will have the chance to explore new products and services. But it will also allow merchants to empower them to do more than they did in the past. And some of the examples or ideas, the things that I could see happen in the future is, if you want to create an online store, we already said it's easy today, but it will probably even be easier in the future. You'll be able to go in and say, hey, maybe give a short description of, I already selling this particular product. I am in this country. Just kind of give a general description about your business and what you want to sell. And an e-commerce platform will be able to kind of already start generating a first version of your website, of your e-commerce website. So, and get all that creative aspects in there for you. So you don't necessarily need to do as much clicking and dragging to build your website. It could be done very quickly, and you can reiterate on the design faster by just giving more instructions in plain language. And the AI will take care of translating that plain language that you're giving in terms of instructions into code and into design. Or even just the idea of designing a new page or a campaign. You can put a description of what you want to promote or campaign and ask the AI to come up with 3 to 4 different examples of campaign creatives that you can use. So you can see that also for a merchant, it becomes a powerful tool from creating their website, but also maybe with translation of a website, doing recommendations, all kinds of aspects of the website and the e-commerce store can be built differently by allowing AI empowering the merchant.
So I just think, look, from a logistics standpoint, being able to access that data is really important in terms of product selection, sourcing, obviously how you can reduce cost, especially if you've got products that are in your warehouse for a long period of time and not selling. Being able to access that type big data and turn that into product selection and product purchasing is very, very powerful. So I think using that data, so AI is not just on the front end, it's also on the back end and used for logistics as well.
I think we could probably spend an entire episode talking about AI and e-commerce, but we should probably save that for another time. So social commerce, m-commerce and q-commerce, 3 relatively new areas of e-commerce. Ben, can you tell us more what exactly they are and why they are topics for SMEs to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think if you look at the trends of social commerce, I mean, it's exploding. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's sort of a trend, but there's different narratives of trends happening around social commerce. And I think that dovetails now into really live streaming. If you look at the big sites like a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, a lot of brands, if they really want to be present to talk to younger generation, they need to have really good content. You see how much time people are spending scrolling on their phones. And I think it's a really good way to showcase the personality by creating really fun, interactive sort of content to position the sort of brand purpose. So I think with social now, that's where the first step of the journey will start for both online and offline.
Yes, social commerce has been a trend for the past years, and I think it's one that is established and proven now. And I like to think about it also about the whole creator-driven economy. It is, I think, an exciting opportunity for all new entrepreneurs out there and small businesses where you can flex your creative muscles to then be able to go design something, produce something, sell that product to the consumers, and bypass all the traditional intermediaries that are out there from distributors and wholesale. So it's just much more easier to get in the game. And that we're going to see more and more of it. We're going to see, I think, more and more models, business models evolve from more of a creator-driven commerce where people with good ideas are just going to market, finding consumers, and are able to take advantage of that.
So m-commerce, Ben?
Yeah, sure. I think obviously Aaron will have a lot more experience in this area, but the reality is in terms of sort of website optimization to make sure that you have that as an option for your customer. So making sure you got fast load and good performance times, so you got high quality, visuals, the consumer can zoom in and out. So obviously the consumer is typically purchasing now from their mobile as opposed from desktop. We can see that in statistics. So a lot of companies don't put the time and effort or investment into that area. So whilst it's not a trend, I think for a small business, that's an area definitely a focus to really get right, I believe.
Yeah, like m-commerce or mobile commerce is now one of the preferred ways for shoppers to buy things. And we're seeing that in our overall data in terms of all the WooCommerce merchants and where the shopping experience is happening. If you don't have a mobile friendly website, you're going to be in trouble. And luckily, the platforms that you're working, that you choose to take, most of them will do a good job of helping you get there, but you need to test. You need to make sure that you're ready for it, because I think actually even more than half of the traffic these days is coming from mobiles.
And what about Q-commerce or quick commerce?
I think for me, this is certainly no longer a trend. I think the majority of people listening here, whether you own a business or not, you'll be a consumer. And we as people are impatient or expect things yesterday. So I think statistically now, globally, anything post 2 days is considered slow. So the reality is, I don't think quick commerce really exists. I think it's just an expectation and no longer a trend. So if you do not have the right delivery options on checkout, it will have a direct impact on conversion. So typically it will depend on your price points and the markets you're servicing and the products selection that you have. But if you have the right margins and offer an express product as a base offering will definitely help conversion. If you don't, make sure you have express. If you've got a low price point or you don't have the margins to support that, make sure you have an express option, because that can impact conversion by up to 70%. So customers are looking for speed for sure.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we used to have a saying when I worked at Canada Post where only the customer knows how he wants something delivered, and that will change from order to order. And you need to allow the shopper to make that decision and tell you that as a merchant what that preference is, so that you can successfully deliver on their expectations. And I think one of the other trends we're going to be seeing is just carriers are coming up with more and more great solutions, and that puts more pressure on merchants to be able to present those great options to their shoppers and then be able to turn them on also on the back end in terms of being able to print the labels and give the information needed to the carrier to be able to deliver on this wider and wider range of offering from carriers.
And I think just to maybe add to that point, because we always think about quick commerce as, the last mile, but there's also that return leg. If you've got returns come back in, how you get it back in a cost-effective way to the merchant, because effectively you're looking to be able to pay that credit back after you've done your quality checks as well. So that whole process has to be seamless, it has to be easy for the customer, because that can have a direct impact on customer experience as well.
So I do have some stats here. According to a research from IBM, 65% of global consumers prefer to purchase from brands committed to sustainability. And the following 53% of them are willing to pay more for environmentally friendly shipping. So sustainability is clearly a huge topic, certainly for end customers. What are the relevant trends there, Aurélien?
Well, there's an increasing segment of customers that are demanding for environmentally friendly shipping. And luckily, carriers have been stepping up to the plate and innovating with more sustainable packaging and carbon offset programs. Companies and merchants should continue to prioritize having some sustainability shipping offerings at checkout, so that those customers that are more environmentally conscious are able to make that selection and align what they care about, what's important to them, with what you're offering?
I think the facts are that consumers now are a lot more aware in terms of what they're purchasing, from where it was manufactured, by who and how. So that obviously has a big impact in terms of the brands that they're purchasing from. But I think bringing it back to a logistics perspective, they are looking for green solutions. We can see that consumers are happy to pay up to 20% more for a low emission delivery. And they're looking for insetting solutions as well, right? So it's not just a case of offsetting. They want to make sure you do the right thing ahead of time. But there are some other things that a merchant can do in order to make the cross-border in particular order a lot more green. So things like packaging, what type of packaging, is it recycled? Also, the correct packaging. There are companies you probably find that will deliver something very small in a huge box. So making sure you have the right packaging selection for the products being shipped. And just keep in mind the packaging that is selected can create up to 30% of the emissions as well. So, there are things that you can take steps ahead of time. The other thing, if your margins don't support it, you can have options on checkout where the customer may be able to pay a little bit more for a green solution. And I think it definitely helps to advertise that if you have that already available on your homepage, to let them know that you have a green delivery option available. And that will definitely have a positive impact, not only on the brand, but also on conversion as well. Because if you're pondering making that selection, especially if that order is going to travel a long distance, then knowing that it's reduced emissions will obviously have a positive impact on conversion.
Ben, you mentioned that shoppers are willing to pay a premium for a more environmental friendly shipping, and that these options can be turned on or turned off. And I think that's something that every merchant should experiment with. It's pretty easy to add an environmentally friendly delivery option at checkout and just see how your customers are reacting to it. Can be a very good first step to kind of get into that space and see if it's something that you want to roll across more broadly in terms of your business. This is kind of one of the big benefits of like being on an e-commerce platform, is that you can very quickly iterate and try things, see what works, see what doesn't work, and how you want to move ahead in different spaces.
So Scope 3, Ben, can you tell me a little bit more about that and the impact on small businesses?
So Scope 3 is the movement of a package or order from one location to another. So pick up, flying the order, and delivery. So effectively, a merchant is not able to reduce their Scope 3 emissions. They're very much reliant on the transporter to ensure that they're a lot more sustainable and to be able to provide a green solution to their merchant. So typical things in that would be electrifying your first and last mile fleet, making sure your facilities are using natural resources like solar, and in some cases like what DHL is invested into, such as using alternative methods of fuel like sustainable aviation fuel. So to give you an idea, within a typical e-commerce supply chain, 85% will be Scope 3 and 65% is the pickup through to delivery. And up to 80% is by movement of goods by air. So the only available solution really out there today to reduce emissions is sustainable aviation fuel. So if you're looking to reduce your Scope 3, which is obviously what the customer's looking for, which they would refer to typically as greenhouse gas emission reduction.
So some great discussion there. And before we go, I'd love for both of you to give me your 3 top tips for starting an e-commerce business.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, the first one is make sure you get the foundation of your business right. E-commerce is agile. There's a lot of trends. Things change very quickly, but make sure you have the right ingredients and you're agile. I think the second one, keep your customer at the heart of your business. At the end of the day, without the customer coming back to you and purchasing, you're not going to grow. You're not going to survive. So it's really important to keep the customer at the heart of everything you do. And lastly, going global is simple. I think we spoke about some of the challenges and complexities, but the reality is there's millions of companies out there selling online today. Don't be afraid. There's companies out there can help you and get you started very quickly.
Thanks, Ben. And Aurélien, what about you?
Well, I echo Ben's tips, but I could add first be creative. This is creativity is going to win in this new market. And the other thing is, like we talked about e-commerce from starting and launching a website to going international, and a lot of this may seem daunting, but take it step by step and lean onto your partners at each step that you take. They're there to help. They're knowledgeable. They've seen it. They've done it. And at the end of the day, you just need to start. It's not, the barriers to starting are lower than ever. And just start taking that first step and, worry step by step, and you will overcome it. Too many people have these ideas, these great ambitions, and are holding back because they think it's going to be complex. And, I'm here to say I've been in this industry for 15 years working with small entrepreneurs and seeing some grow to be, massive success. And the key, everybody's scared at the beginning. You just need to start.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just to add to that, we have a saying when we're meeting small merchants, you can't learn to drive a car when it's parked. You just got to get in and learn.
It's a great one. And this is the thing with e-commerce these days. You kind of heard me say this throughout the thing. You don't even need to buy the big car. You can just, it's probably within a couple hours and a few bucks, you can have an online store to start learning. It doesn't even mean the one that you're going to launch. Just one for fun, and then and do a test drive.
There you go. Super clear, straight from the expert's mouth. Build the right foundations. Keep customers at the heart of your business. And it's okay to be nervous, but at the end of the day, just go out there and do it. Aurélien, Ben, thank you so much for joining us for our first episode and for kicking us off with such great insight on what really is a massive area for small businesses. To stay up to date with Ready, Set, Go Global with your small business, remember to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice and keep your eyes peeled on our social channels for the next episode. So, to all you small business owners out there, keep growing and see you next time.